In Beijing today, a show of solidarity between two nations that some commentators say is part of an axis of upheaval. Xi Jinping welcomed Vladimir Putin today. The Chinese president's discussion with his Russian counterpart headlined a day of meetings. Xi also met with Iran's president, while North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un arrived on an armored train. Journalist Laura Westbrook is tracking the story from Hong Kong. She tells us that Xi and the other leaders appear to be lining up together in a stand against U.S. influence.
Russian President Vladimir Putin described Chinese President Xi Jinping as a dear friend. He told Xi that our close communication reflects the strategic nature of Russia-China relations, which are at an unprecedentedly high level. Meanwhile, Xi told Putin that China-Russia relations have withstood the test of international changes. Now, Russian state media reported that energy giant Gazprom had struck a deal to boost gas supplies from Russia to China by about 15%. Meanwhile, China announced after the talks that it would begin offering 30-day visa-free access to Russian travelers starting later this month. Now, Russia has been helped by multiple rounds of Western sanctions imposed after its invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Chinese President Xi Jinping has tried to project neutrality on the war in Ukraine, even as China has emerged as a key pillar of both diplomatic and economic support for Russia. Now, President Xi is set to host China's largest ever military parade on Wednesday to mark the 80th anniversary of the formal surrender of the Japanese at the end of World War II. Now, President Putin and Kim Jong-un will stand shoulder to shoulder with President Xi to watch this huge military parade, as well as other leaders who are attending, such as the Iranian president. It's a chance for Vladimir Putin to speak directly with Kim Jong-un, who's been providing Russia with troops for its war in Ukraine. It's also a major moment for Kim Jong-un, who rarely travels abroad. It'll be the first time he's been to an international event like this, surrounded by world leaders. And analysts say Kim Jong-un's visit is expected to show the strength of his country's ties to China and also a signal to the United States. President Trump said last week he wants to meet Kim Jong-un. And while a deal with the Russian leader to end the war in Ukraine continues to elude Donald Trump, President Xi's welcome of his Russian counterpart to Beijing demonstrates their close ties. And that, along with the attendance of North Korea's Kim Jong-un, analysts say that this is about Beijing showing Donald Trump that China's international influence is crucial. Laura Westbrook, CBC News, Hong Kong.
Let's stay on the story, and joining us is Sergey Radchenko. He is a historian of the Cold War and professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. He's in Bologna, Italy today. Thank you for taking the time.
Anytime.
So Xi Jinping told Putin that relations between Russia and China have withstood the test of international changes. What message do you think that sends to the U.S. and other Western leaders?
Well, the message has been the same. They have been on the message every time they meet. And this is, I think, their 45th meeting. They've been saying that the relationship is better than it has ever been. And I think they're probably right about this. And there has been traditionally an anti-Western and a particularly anti-American angle to their relationship, although they keep saying that it's not directed against third parties. However, that said, I think it's meaningful to note that this time Putin is coming to China after his summit with President Trump in Alaska, and he referred in his speech in Tianjin to understandings, quote unquote, understandings reached in Alaska, and refrained from criticism of the United States. So I think there's more nuance to this triangular relationship than what meets the eye. But clearly the optics are there, and that Russia and China are standing in glory together.
Because you're right. I mean, at the same time, President Trump is trying to make a deal with Russia to end the war in Ukraine. Here is China welcoming the Russian leader to demonstrate their closer ties. So how do you think that could impact the relationship between Trump and Putin?
Well, it's not really going to impact the relationship. Trump wants a better relationship with Putin. The China piece of the puzzle has been there for a long time. It's not going to change. It's not like Putin is going to turn his back on China. just because Trump wants a better relationship with him. We have to understand, too, that there are deeper reasons for this close relationship between China and Russia. They're economically compatible. They're not rivals. And they have a sort of a shared grudge against the international order. They think that the order should be reordered in a way that brings them up a little bit more. They don't like the unilateral American-led order. So I think they do share that vision, and that's going to stay there.
Do you think that is a challenge? Do you think that this is a serious challenge to that American-led international order, which I don't know whether it's under the same kind of leadership as it was before Donald Trump was president, especially in this second term, but just your thoughts.
I mean, it is and it isn't, in the sense that, we have been predicting the decline and collapse of the West for many, many years, probably for 100 years at this point. Look, the West obviously has contradictions, and we saw just a fortnight ago this sort of emergency summit in Washington that showed transatlantic difficulties, let's put it this way. And as against that backdrop, we have this, glorious summit in Tianjin and Beijing, which seems to project that China is leading the world to a very different world order. But here's the reality. China has no idea how to run the world. And the vision that Xi Jinping is offering of a world order centered on China is still very vague and unclear. So I don't think we are now in a position to say that, look, China is winning this struggle for influence in the world. Yes, they are, Xi Jinping is clearly getting some points, and he's standing in glory on top of Tiananmen Square. But what's then? What's next? That's the question.
Russia and China just agreed to build a new gas pipeline, which might help Russia's economy recover from Western sanctions relating to the war in Ukraine. How big is this energy deal for shifting the global balance that we've been talking about?
So this one is interesting. For many years, for me, Power of Siberia 2, the lack of progress on this pipeline was a barometer of where we stand with Sino-Russian economic relations, which, by the way, have actually taken off in recent years. But they did achieve something like a memorandum of understanding in Beijing. Lots of things are still unclear. As Trump would say, there's no deal until there is a deal. And we don't know how this will play out because there are disagreements over pricing. I don't think those disagreements have been resolved quite yet. But they seem to have made a step in the direction of building another pipeline. Mind you, there are already existing pipelines from Russia to China, including Power of Siberia 1. This one would take gas from Western Siberia, which traditionally supplied Europe, into China. And that, of course, is great news for Gazprom, the Russian gas giant that has been facing some headwinds in recent years because of the sanctions against Russia and Europe.
Let's look ahead to tomorrow when China will host the largest ever military parade. How important are symbolic things like a parade on the global stage, especially with Donald Trump, who likes military parades, not part of all of this? Do you think that sends some kind of message to the U.S., to the West generally? Is this a dangerous moment?
Andrea, of course, those parades always send messages of military strength. That's the purpose of holding those parades. Show your might with soldiers marching there. When China had its military parade 10 years ago, by the way, Putin also showed up. That was in 2015. I think 12,000 soldiers marched down the Chang'an Avenue. So we know what to expect. It'll be a lot of military glory and a lot of equipment. And of course, yes, it sends a message of strength, the idea that China is there as a major power. Now, that is, of course, the second act to the parade that took place in Moscow on May 9th, and Xi Jinping was there. So Putin is kind of returning the favor by being in Beijing as well. But I think, you have to go beyond the optics, and you have to ask yourself, what is something profoundly changing before our eyes? And I think the answer is no. The world is still very complicated. The West still plays a very important economic and military role in the world. And I don't think we're now at a stage where we can say, oh my God, something totally different is happening that we have not seen before.
Sergey, great to talk to you. Thank you. Sergey Radchenko is a historian of the Cold War and professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. He joined us from Bologna in Italy.